the name and the title in itself, Indigenous Resurgence, I thought that when I first seen it, like, months ago, like at least more than a month ago when I had seen Indigenous Resurgence, I'm thinking, what is that? And I thought, what a powerful name, because now that I've met you and thought, oh yes, I've seen that name and that title, it just makes sense that it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, because I've called the Vancouver Art Gallery and the Songhees have a gallery, but they haven't been open since COVID. They opened, they were preparing to open, and then they went back into lockdown. So what I was hoping, as I mentioned, is to get the product out there into when there's a show being, hosted, that, well, here's some product. Serve some of our indigenous and traditional teas, or whatever blossoms from my connection through this project. That it always seems to have a spin-off, that something comes up. Like, as you know, when one project starts, there's all these arms. It's like an octopus. Arms start to shoot out, and you have the opportunity to do so many other projects.
And like, that was another huge thing for me, was I felt, especially when I started connecting with people and actually getting out there, I was like, wow, there's people out here that are just doing the exact same thing, but, are completely oblivious to other people doing, like, the moment where I had that aha and that set in with me was because I work with CIFN. So I was doing a nomination for Julie John, and I had no idea who she was before I was writing that nomination. So I had to look her up. I had to get familiar with what she was doing. I had to, make sure that I knew enough about her to confidently write something up. And I see that she's doing an entrepreneur directory.
Yeah.
And I just think, wow, I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I guarantee that we don't even know each other exist.
That's right.
So I reached out to her, and she was like, I had no idea. Let's get together. Let's, because that's the biggest thing to me, is I don't want to see, barriers for people. I don't want to see, like, if someone's working on something, it's my belief that if you're working on something similar, you could come together and make something even better.
Yeah.
And I know, like, we talked a little bit about politics.
Yeah.
There's a lot of politics involved in when you're trying to create something. And I just think it's damn near time that we move past politics and actually, put truth behind saying, it's important to lift each other up, because you can say that, but the actions I've seen from other people are the opposite. And I just think it's time that we move past that and actually start supporting each other. And that's what I personally want to do. That is my personal mandate. That is my goal. That is what I am going to do.
There's enough work for all of us.
Exactly.
All the herbalists, all the traditional medicine people in our Shawettnik Nation. There is so much work for all of us, that we're not in competition with each other. That there's systemic barriers. There's what we were talking about earlier. What are the barriers? It is the crab in the bucket. Somebody's getting out, I'm going to pull them back down. And as Indigenous women, you look at what's happened in the nation and what's happening in politics. We're having a changeover in politics where the women are becoming the leaders. But why? We were the nurturers and the caregivers. And now, moving forward, it's like, how do we not do that to each other? How do we make sure we're not the ones dragging somebody else down? It's like you say, our actions are basically going to speak louder than the words. Oh no, I'm not like that. But when I'm not dragging somebody else down and I'm lifting them up, is where we need to be. I wholeheartedly agree. as a small business and an indigenous business that seems to have to that I have to work twice as hard to prove that the quality of my products and services are of the utmost highest quality, as opposed to somebody who is at the farmer's market and has been there that's non-indigenous, that I've had to I can gather the same product in the same place, and they're out there selling it like that. They're making tons of money. We have enough competition. We don't need to be competing. I guess where I'm going with your comment is we don't have to be competing with each other, and as opposed to we've already have enough competition in our area as a small business. And totally understood what you said about Julie having and yourself starting that database or a collection of indigenous businesses, because you can become overwhelmed when you don't have much time trying to figure out, well, did I sign up for that, or did I sign up for that, and did I sign up for the what are they? Julie is also a part of the tourism.
Oh,
tourism.
is she also
tourism.
There?
Yes, so she's also part of the indigenous tourism. So I know Julie from way back working together as a health director. She was the hub assistant. So when you start to look at all these different initiatives that happen, it's like, boy, oh boy, you can become overwhelmed really fast. And all you're trying to do is market your product, and you're one person trying to make sure you're doing justice for your business. So appreciate the work that you both are doing, because it is that it's challenging to know, and it is systemic barriers, because in the computer world everything changes so fast. You can get so lost on the way over. Now that you mentioned that, I was trying to update my platform on that's attached to my business, update prices, update pictures, add new pictures, and it's just when one person is doing all the work, you have limited amount of time, and you're pushing it in and realizing the value of this connection. And as I was telling my husband, this is a connection I want to make sure I nurture, because I know it has value. I just felt it when we met at the market last Sunday, and we seem to be a feeling culture. That's a piece of what's lost in colonization, is the feeling piece. So.
Thank you. I have some questions here.
Okay.
I'm assuming we are good. Good, perfect, because that was all impromptu, but that was beautiful. And if we could use any of that, that would be fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. So my first question is, what is okay, for recording purposes, what is your business? What do you do? And how long have you been practicing in the area?
So what is my business? My business is Sharing Mela'hma, which in Spletching, which is Shawetmik, is sharing medicine. So basically, I have been learning about traditional medicines for about 7 years now under a naturopath, one of my mentors, Dr. Jeannie Paul. I believe she practiced in the Kamloops area under Dr. Jeannie Elbine. And I have another mentor in the south, Linwood Tallbull. He is of the Northern Cheyenne tribes. So it's two elders that have taught me so much about medicines and traditional medicines, naturopathic medicines. So basically, since about 2017, I began tutoring her classes for her. After she would leave community, in my home community, my job was to make sure that the attrition and dropout rate didn't occur. We started with 30 students, and what we saw the following year is maybe 20 came back. But and I'm going to say something about that because that's typical in First Nations communities, because the work and study is so intense. And she's drilled it into our heads that we're expected to be at a first year medical program level. And so basically, it's been about 7 years. So then just following her around all over the province, wherever she would allow me to go with her. I've traveled, we've traveled to all the 7 nations, harvesting and gathering, and just learning that. So basically, the challenges that come from that type of being a traditional medicine person, and I'm going to mention this here because FNHA has a traditional wellness plan. The issue is they haven't been able to implement it because they've identified challenges when they did the questionnaire and they rolled it up in a neat little package. What still holds true in First Nations community today is, how do you recognize the traditional medicine people of your community or the next community? That where's the certification? Where's the insurance? So that's the biggest challenge for traditional medicine people, whether you call yourself an herbalist. So I've had to take on a path of not only learning traditional medicine, but I've had to do what Dr. Janie has done. She went on the naturopathic path because she wanted recognition for what she knew as a traditional medicine person. I've actually taken on a couple of herbalist pathways. So it's been challenging. So when you ask the question, where did it start? It started 7 years ago, but many challenges to running my present day business that I'm finding as an Indigenous person. What we talk about is politics. Again, we spoke of politics earlier. There's also politics when it comes to become an herbalist or a member of an herbalist association that's predominantly non-Indigenous. So that's a challenge, getting my foot in the door as an Indigenous person.
Yeah. Okay. You have such beautiful stories, and I can tell that there's a lot of experience there just just by talking and what we've been saying so far. And I think it's really important just to hear what it is you've experienced or you went through, or challenges you faced. And is there any kind of experiences, challenges, things that you weren't expecting as an Indigenous business owner in the region that have come up that you're just like,
what do you do?
Yeah.
So insurance is my number one challenge, because as a traditional medicine person, if I were to purchase insurance, it would be through Lloyd's of London in England. So even though we're in Canada, my insurance was still offshore. They wanted an extensive list of every herb that I'm using or is in my shop. And they were able to limit, under my insurance, a number of herbs that I couldn't touch or use. They also were able to limit my income to very, very limited. It's what I could make in 1 month. They were able to say, your limit is X dollar amount, then you're done selling for the year. I couldn't sell any more product. So when it comes down to one having that educational background, having something that's recognized, that was a huge challenge that I never would have expected. So now I've looked at different options, drug identification numbers through Health Canada. I'm 3 courses or 2.5 courses away from completing my diploma program through Wild Rose College out of Alberta. And I've just had to look at the other educational segues for traditional medicine. So we've spoken to, when I say we, I mean Dr. Jeannie and I have spoken to different colleges and universities to actually certify a traditional medicine program. Then we're filling in the gap for FNHA. We're looking at the insurability pieces, but as you probably know, these colonized systems don't work fast for something like this. And we've been in process for more than 3 years with different colleges and universities trying to have somebody certify us. So my greatest challenge has been insurance and those reasons.
Yeah, that definitely provides a list of challenges, especially, when you're trying to do something for yourself, not only from a business perspective, but would you, going into how you started this, was there some kind of inspiration? Was it for yourself that you started, or was it for others, or some other reason, if you're comfortable with sharing?
I am actually, because I haven't talked openly about it. My husband knows, my family knows, certain people know. When I took on the health director role at Bonaparte in 2014, one of my best friends in 2012, 2013 was diagnosed with cancer. And there wasn't anything I could do for her to help her. So basically, what ended up happening is this opportunity came along. Started when I was at UBC, their Aboriginal Education Coordinator. I first connected with Dr. Jeannie Paul because I was going to figure out an online platform that we're able to learn about traditional medicine. And so what kind of transpired is this lifelong commitment by myself, following her and learning about traditional medicine. So it was when I first started, I thought I'm only going to stay in traditional medicines and learn enough to help one of my best friends. And I thought, I'm going to help you stop being in pain, because pain was her number one, and for her breast cancer. And I told her, when I speak of it, she's still here today. And she's very near and dear to my heart, that when I think about and go back to that starting point of why did I want to do this, it wasn't for myself, it was for somebody who was a part of my life. And then when I realized I can help so many different people, that it just became a natural. And most recently, what I realized is through truth and reconciliation and studying my family, that both my grandmothers, my maternal and paternal, were traditional medicine people. So, and it's how do you discover that other than allowing and creating a safe space, even with your own parents, to tell their truth. That in the midst of all of that, I discovered that both my grandmothers did traditional medicine.
That's very cool. Just to be 100% clear, are you comfortable with that story that you just shared being put online and shared around?
Maybe just cut out the piece about her name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And the last question that I kind of have, that a part of what I'm doing with this project, and one part is on a community level, reaching out and making connections with people, and with the funding that I'm trying to apply for, there was a lot of me speaking on behalf of my own experiences, and while some of those are general enough to be all right, it's also a huge importance for me personally to be able to reach out and actually listen to other people, listen to what their experiences are as Indigenous businesses in the area, listen to their challenges or what they might need, what they could see others needing. And The question I have for you is whether it was your own personal journey or looking to your community members around you, what supports or resources do you think would be beneficial locally?
So what resources would be beneficial locally? I believe that, at least in my experience, it was me searching for a lot of different funding sources to make it happen. And I am totally grateful for Central Interior First Nations Development Corp, CIFDC, and their ability to see that this is my life work, that this, like doing traditional medicine, is me. Like I kind of think that I'm one with my medicine, that they seeing that there is value in the products and services that I'm doing. But the greatest challenge is as an Indigenous person, kind of, and they're one organization with a skeleton staff, right, that doesn't have enough support. Like, how do you ensure there's enough support for everybody, because they're central to servicing how many First Nations communities? And it's the same in health. We have friendship centers that are funded, but the service base, again, and I'll use one of my friends' analogy, is we're the skinny cow, and there's the healthy cow over there that's able to serve all these people off reserve, non-Indigenous people. But here we are with the skinny little cow with not enough resources. And I get that, even a service like that, they're trying to service as many people as they can, but not enough support to go around for all the people. I mean, I appreciate the work they do. I know, from the board director level, that they're represented by all the participating communities. They have but that's one thing, is accessing the services and the supports for the grants. I know that they would like to do more. I've spoken to some of the support people there, but realize they're limited too on how thinly spread they are for their hours of work. And I appreciate that they have funded me, but realizing they're limited also in the amount of support that they can give afterwards, and the follow-up pieces. And it feels like that's what happens in health, that's what happens in our social programs, and as a small business trying to survive through the pandemic, that's a huge challenge.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to share, you want to talk about while we're still here?
I guess when I looked at the question that you had on the table about services or that you would like to see, it's more on, and I don't know if we had the opportunity to talk about it, but advertising, and as a small business, it is hard. And I will say one thing, and it's hard for Indigenous people to ask for help. So you try and figure it out on your own. So how do we kind of? I'm getting better at it. It's just, I want to be everything. I want to do everything without having to ask for a lot of help. And I know that's probably my own thing. But at the same time, how do we support the younger next generation? Here's my experience. How do we move and support them? So yeah, that's my only other comments.
Well, thank you so much for coming down, and especially, making time out of a long weekend or any other plans you might have. There was many people with many plans today.
We're just
But I've been so grateful for everyone who has come down. I have a little gift for you.